When it comes to climate change, it can be hard to keep up. There's barely a day that goes by where there isn't a new warning, and it can be easily overlooked or forgotten as the next news story grabs the spotlight. So, here's a roundup of some of the big stories we've seen this April. Cornwall and Devon have seen a hosepipe ban introduced to combat lower than average levels of rainfall. Around 390,000 homes will be affected by the restrictions. Both counties entered drought conditions last August, and the situation worsened in February, which saw the driest conditions in 30 years. Reservoir levels are already lower than this time last year, which is a concern given forecasts for record-breaking temperatures. In addition, Southwest Water is preparing for the possibility of bans on car washes, swimming pools and hot tubs. That could have an impact on tourism, as holiday parks would be included in the restrictions. Moving on, Lake Garda in northern Italy has reached its lowest point, standing at just 38% of its normal capacity. In fact, water storage levels in the region are less than half what they would normally be at this time of year. This is on the back of last year, during which Italy suffered its worst drought in 70 years. Parts of the country are currently under extreme drought conditions, and the surrounding Alps have experienced an unusually dry and warm winter, meaning that there aren't the usual snow reserves to feed into rivers during the spring and summer seasons. Next up, Spain's farmers face the threat of drought, and a plague of hungry rabbits. I mean, that certainly wasn't what I was expecting when researching this video. This is the news that Spain's government has imposed a 40% reduction in water usage for agriculture, meaning that many farmers will simply not have enough water for their crops. Land is having to be set aside, whilst tough decisions are being made about which crops are suitable for the conditions. This comes at a time when the rabbit population has exploded due to hunting bans imposed during the pandemic, combined with an immunity to myxomatosis, a virus used to control the rabbit population. With a lack of grass and water, this growing rabbit population is destroying crops. This includes wheat, barley, and the bark on vines and fruit trees. It is expected that more than 250,000 rabbits will need to be killed to control the population, but there are concerns that there aren't enough hunters to actually achieve those numbers. That led to the government allowing the use of aluminium phosphate, which creates a toxic gas that is released into burrows. In addition, Catalonia in northern Spain is facing its worst drought in decades. The water levels at the Sau reservoir are at just 10%, meaning that there is now a risk that water quality cannot be maintained. Boats are being sent out into the reservoir to capture fish to prevent them dying and rotting in the drinking water. Native fish species will be released into nearby waterways, whilst invasive species will be killed. Meanwhile, there are concerns that Morocco is continuing to overproduce and export water-intensive crops. Commercial objectives are being prioritised over sustainability, which is likely to lead to increased water stress in the country. Its tomato exports have increased 17% on the previous year, a crop that requires 214 litres of water for every 1 kilo of tomatoes. This is contributing to increased domestic prices. Over in the United States, California's big melt has begun. Following record-breaking levels of snow, amounting to 221% of normal for the time of year, there are now serious concerns that water infrastructure will be overwhelmed. There is enough water in the snowpack to fill downstream reservoirs multiple times over. Scientists and officials are particularly concerned about the San Joaquin Valley, which is an agricultural hub. It was hit last month by destructive flooding, causing billions of dollars worth of damages. Now we need to look at the desperate situation in Somalia, where there is so little food and water that parents are force-feeding their children detergent and salt to make them sick. This is so that they can be taken to government-run health centres where they can obtain free food. Another tactic used is for beggars to rent babies and toddlers from desperate parents, as beggars are able to make more money if they have a young child with them. Finally, in a bit of positive news, many UK reservoirs have now recovered to normal conditions. That's because March saw high levels of rainfall which helped counter the extremely dry conditions the month prior. Yorkshire Water has said its reservoirs are at 97.3% of capacity. Meanwhile, South East Water has lifted its hosepipe ban as some reservoirs have reached 100% of capacity. There are still concerns due to the high temperatures forecast for this summer, but the situation is not as bad as it could have been. Reflecting on the stories this month, there are a few key themes that stand out. One is the impact that climate change is having on wildlife populations. Another is the impact of drought on the cost of living, particularly in less affluent countries. And there is, of course, the human impact, particularly the suffering of children. But whilst it's easy to get disheartened, it's important to focus on the things we can change. One thing is to look for local fruit and veg, as that can help reduce one's carbon footprint and take pressure away from countries like Morocco and Spain, which have been hit hard by drought conditions. Understanding which crops are in season can certainly help with this. Another thing we can do is watch our water usage, avoid leaving the water running when brushing teeth, limit the length of showers and avoid baths where possible, and opt for gardens that can be sustained with rainwater rather than needing hosepipes or sprinklers. Whilst these changes are rather small on their own, they can quickly add up if enough people follow. Anyway, if you found this video informative, then please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments below what you found most interesting. If there's anything you'd like to see me cover in my next video, or you have some useful tips or tricks, then please let me know. Until next time, stay safe.